Imagine after living a long, fulfilling life, you've now been diagnosed with a terminal illness or an incurable disease. You're now bedridden, hooked up to a machine, you have tubes coming out of you, you're on medication 24 hours a day, and you have to have assistance to do the minimal things in life. You have to have someone come in and take care of your every need. You're no longer able to walk, get out of bed, feed yourself, go to the bathroom. You no longer are a friend, sister, mother, wife. You can't fulfill any duties that you've done before. You now feel like a burden to society and a burden to your family. Is that any way to live? Is it any way for your family to have to watch you live? For them to have to watch you endure day after day the embarrassment and being undignified, laying in that bed all day long? Hi, I'm Tammy Clausen. I'm here to talk to you about euthanasia. This is a subject that's not talked about very often, and it's very controversial. I believe euthanasia should be legalized for the appropriate reasons for certain of individuals. I think there's certain qualifications that should be met. Should be several doctors' opinions. But in the end, I believe it's a person's right to decide whether or not they live or die. Euthanasia is about giving people the right to choose how they live their life. The right to choose whether they live or die, and it stops them from having a poor quality of life. Euthanasia.procom.org says, the right of a competent terminal ill person is to avoid excruciating pain and embrace a timely and dignified death. A dignified death is not lying in a bed being taken care of while you're no longer able to function and have a poor quality of life. MedicineNet.com defines euthanasia as the practice of intentionally ending a life in order to relieve pain and suffering. If you're in pain constantly and you're suffering, what kind of life is that? Death with dignity is something that has come up now. It's a way to end the life. It's an option that allows certain individuals to be able to end their life with dignity, medically, under the care of a physician, and it's very humane. Euthanasia gives people this right to choose. There's several reasons why euthanasia should be legalized. Background, statistics, pros and cons, and real-life examples are ways to support my decision in euthanasia and how I want to show you that I think it should be legalized. Euthanasia comes from a Greek term that means good death. It was taken as a way to make a self-imposed death in a relatively painless and merciful manner. There's 4 categories of euthanasia. There's voluntarily, non-voluntarily, active, and passive. Active means that it's a criminal way of murder. Passive means it's under a physician's care and it's not criminal. Euthanasia has been around since 500 BC. Widespread support for voluntary death as opposed to prolonged agony, and physicians complied often with their patients by giving them the poison that they requested. So even as early as 500 BC, people recognized that people needed to die with dignity and shouldn't have to be expected to live through suffering. The 12th and 15th centuries, Christians became aware of this fact, and that's when the Hippocratic Oath was in place. The Hippocratic Oath says that doctors must uphold ethical standards and cause no harm, including provisions against abortion and euthanasia. There are 6 states now that allow physician-assisted suicides, which are California, Colorado, Montana, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington. And they have several qualifications. You must have a minimum age of 18. You must have a legal residency in that state. You must be diagnosed with some kind of illness and have 6 months expected life to live. If you have 2 to 3 years, they will not even consider it. You also have to have 2 oral requests or 2 written requests and an oral request to your doctor 15 days apart, and you have to have second opinions. You can't just have one doctor say that you have an incurable disease and you have 6 months to live and then you're granted the chance to do euthanasia. It's also legal in 3 countries, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. The pros of physician-assisted suicides are people should have the right to live and die humanely and dignified. Patients also have the right to the treatment that they deserve. Euthanasia takes away the guilt of a dying patient. and no one should have to endure long suffering and constant pain. That is inhumane. If they're at the point that they're living on morphine, it's not worth it. The cons can always be argued. It says terminally ill patients can be given palliative care, which basically means they'll be medicated. They'll have so much morphine in them they won't understand or know what's going on anyway. So what's the point of living? The citing of a violation of the Hippocratic Oath has also been said, but does not doing harm mean allowing that person to lay in that bed suffering for years, for weeks, however long it takes? Isn't that the same as doing harm? Also, inaccurate prognosis has been cited. That's why you must have several doctors' opinions. You have to get several doctors to give the same diagnosis and agree to this, or else it won't be legal. There are several cases that have come up, but one of the ones that was most important to me was the fact that there was a brain-dead woman, Terry Scriver, her husband fought for her to be taken off life support for 15 years before they finally decided that she could be removed from life support. He watched her be in a coma for 15 years. What kind of life was that for her? In closing, I would like to say everyone should have the right to choose how they live or die. The personal decision should not be your doctor's or the government. It should be yours. And everyone should be able to live or die humanely and dignified. You should be able to die as respectfully as you live. Thank you.